All right, guys, we got a quick one here today. Um, this is an exchange that happened quite some time ago, but it was brought to mind last week, and looking back at it, I realized I wanted to make a video about it then. Um, in fact, this exchange was already clipped out. I think it was going to make a video about it then, but we weren't at a level where we could make a tremendous amount of uh, use out of it just yet. So it kind of uh, took a seat in the back of my mind, and I hadn't thought about it until it was brought up to me again. But looking at this exchange now, I realize that I really do want to make a video about this because there's a sense in which just this one exchange in a vacuum is the perfect exchange, right? Uh, so, so that's not to say that every single aspect of what went on here was technically or mechanically perfect. There are there are quite a few things that if we wanted to pick them apart, we could. But if we just look at in broad swaths, um, if we look at the metaphysics of the fight, the five words, provoker, taker, hitter, um, the tactical protocol of the KDF system, this exchange represents the highest level of fencing. But I want to reiterate that what I mean is in a vacuum. So the choices that were made here happen to be the correct choices. That's not to say that they necessarily will always be the correct choices. Um, th they happen to be in this case, and it's not clear to me what data was used, or whether or not this tactical protocol could be applied in a variety of different ways using different techniques, uh, or different applications of the systematics. Uh, in this case, it happened to work exactly the way that it was intended to. The goal of fencing, or the goal of development within fencing, is to get to the level that we could take the systematics at play embedded within this exchange and apply them across a variety of contexts, and in the face of a variety of stimuli on the part of our training partner. And we can go through a couple of different uh, reasons, or a couple of different ways that might work uh, at a later time. But for right now, I just really want to unpack what happens in this exchange and show the metaphysics and the tactical protocol at play here. Okay, so uh, I'll let the exchange. I'm gonna go ahead and let the exchange play out a couple of times. So we'll just watch it. I believe it's in slow motion, and so we'll just watch it in slow motion. We'll watch it two times, and then we'll break down what's happening. Watch it one more time. Okay. So, so what we have here is a really, really excellent example of using the Vor to set up seizing the Vor. All right. Um, so, so what do I mean by that? So, uh, Hosius is the fencer on the left, and Dylan is the fencer on the right. Um, Hosius, the left fencer, I'll probably just refer to him as the left fencer from now on. The left fencer begins initiating the qualitative change in the bind. So he's in the Vor, and he does it knowing what the right fencer is going to do in response. He knows that the right fencer is going to respond by taking very quickly Seize Vor action, and then immediately seizing the Vor himself. Now, the circumstances leading up to this exchange made this sequence very predictable, right? So Hosius, the left fencer, had done this a number of times, and or had attempted to set a number of times, and the right fencer had behaved in a reliably predictable way, and at that point in the left fencer's development, they didn't have a chase that could happen quickly and effectively enough to mitigate the right fencer's seizing of the Vor, right? So the right fencer was able to seize the Vor from his weak taker effectively. Now, ideally, if we are working Indes and we set in a strong way, any taker on the part of our training partner gives us an opportunity to chase, right? But that sort of requires something. It requires that they're working Indes, right? So that it requires that they are keeping themselves from moving at a rate faster than we're moving. There's a lot of reasons why we would want to do that. If you don't know, I made a whole 6-hour instructional that goes into depth. You can get it on TrueSteelTraining.com, I believe. But the bottom line is the right fencer is moving untethered. He's not working Indes. He is working at his own speed, which is faster than the left fencer. And so that was presenting the left fencer with a great challenge. And at this point in the left fencer's development, he probably would be able to hit Indes. This is a year ago that this happened. But I can tell you that Hosius has developed the skills to be able to hit Indes, the right fencer, Dylan's taker, his weak hanging taker, on the set with some sort of cut, either long edge under the chin or zek to the belly, or zek to the arms, underneath the arms, unter, depending on the distance that he closes or that he sort of effectively sets from. At the time, he didn't have that tool in his toolkit, and so he was sort of left with a conundrum. What do I do? And so he came up with a really excellent way of inviting a particular committed attack, right? All hitters are weak, and setting himself up to take that attack and then seize the Vor from a new strong position. Okay, so let's just look exactly at what happens here, and then we'll go back. So left fencer is entering closely. As soon as he gets just to the line of the Krieg, he brings his sword to bear and gains a strong position. So right now, Hosius has a strong position. Left fencer has a strong position on the right fencer's blade, and he's looking to initiate his offense with a set from his strong position on the right fencer's blade. But because he's in the Sufechten, the right fencer can take this set effectively, giving the left fencer an opportunity to chase. So let's just look at how that goes. So he begins a set. Right fencer is withdrawing distance, so he's trying to maintain that Sufechten range, which is also hindering the left fencer's ability to be able to respond with the correct chasing action, which again is going to be a long edge cut at this distance, a long edge cut either under through the arms to the chin, or just hitting the forearms as he enters. But he does so, and then immediately on the taker, knowing that this was going, and this is when let's go back here for a second. So if the right fencer was working inside of the rhythm of the left fencer, then he would have been able to clear left fencer's sword with his taker. So he would have been able to move to the hang position and then cut around, getting onto the other side of the left fencer's sword. But because he's working faster, right? Because he's trying to move faster, he basically immediately throws his left horizontal cut to the head as soon as he makes the cover, right? So as soon as he gets as strong in the way of left fencer's point, he throws the left horizontal cut to the head. Left fencer is anticipating this, right? Now, here's the key. In this moment, he quote unquote guessed correctly. This is a guess. Make no mistake, this is a guess. And he guessed correctly. Now, he had a lot of evidence to suggest that this was going to be the correct guess. The higher levels of fencing you get to, the harder and harder it is to be able to anticipate what your training partner is going to do. That being said, the higher and higher levels of fencing you get to, the less and less risk that either of you are going to be willing to take. Which means the harder and harder it's going to be for you to use sound fundamentals to win exchanges. Which means the more and more risk you're going to have to take to be able to score effectively on your training partner. So what I'm trying to say is, when you begin fencing, the first thing to do is learn your fundamentals. The next thing to do is to develop your tactical paradigm so that you're making the correct choices at every stage of the fight. And then once you've achieved a level of competency in both of those areas, it's then for you to begin to allow for reading your opponent's intention and narrowing your set of options so that you can perform them faster against the narrowed set of stimuli that you're going to face, right? This is not necessarily sound fundamental fencing, right? Because he's intentionally giving his training partner an opportunity to retake the Vor. And his training partner has more options than just striking left horizontal cut to the head. He could strengthen from this position. He could cut into Einhorn. He could have immediately taken in long point as he backed up, or he could have taken in plow. There were more things that his training partner could have done in the initial set. There are also more things that his training partner could have done after the hang and parry. Depending on how he comported his structure, he could still move to strengthen with the long edge, even from this position. And if he did, and the fencer on the left responded with a hang and parry, he would leave himself, left fencer would leave himself open to a chase by the right fencer. And so you can see that this is a read. It's a hard read. It's a call out that left fencer's making on right fencer. It's not necessarily sound fundamental fencing in a basic way, but in an advanced way, this is exactly the way that one needs to deal with an opponent who is very conservative in their behavior. You have to create or compel weak actions, in this case committed hitters, that you know are coming so that you can take them effectively. All right, so right fencer throws left horizontal cut to left fencer's head. Left fencer, having anticipated that cut, moves to his own hanging posture. Right? So now left fencer has an opportunity to retake the vor. Okay? However, he's doing it from a weak position, right? So he can take the vor back. It is safe for him to take the vor back because he's mitigated right fencer's weak action, weak in as much as it is a hitter. And so he can move directly into the vor from this position, having taken. But he makes this even prettier by what he does next. All right, let's watch what he does next. So he feints the right ober from the hanging parry. Right. I cannot tell you how beautiful that feint was. Having taken with the hanging parry, it is probably the most reliably predictable action that you follow through with the ober on the opposite side of the parry. Right fencer is at least in some way prepared for that. So he's going into a sort of Einhorn Kron parry. Honestly, left fencer might have been able to hit arms around if he stepped out far enough with his left foot. He could have created an angle to hit arms here. Or hands. This is not the optimal parry. What right fencer probably should be doing against that ober is moving into a plow position. So pulling his arms, pulling his wrists to his torso, keeping his point high, the line of left fencer's mask. And in that case, he would have at least covered effectively one side. In this way, he's really not covering either side effectively. He's only cutting the direct line from left fencer's sword, which is straight down. And so if left fencer creates an angle here, he loses that. But if he's kind of working indez and tethering himself to this action, he could have at least gotten into plow and gotten his point in front of the sword so that anywhere left fencer attacking down his left side to right fencer's right side would have been covered. Either way, this feint